is very common for people, even pastors and pastors' wives to try to trust everyone. And then the inevitable happens because not everybody is trustworthy. They eventually find somebody and they get hurt, and then they get bitter because they got hurt. And it's very easy in those kinds of situations to start overlooking genuine Christians because of a few dishonest people with selfish desires. And so what we do is we pull away from everybody because there are some who are what we might call bad eggs, people who we thought cared about us, and we were wrong. So, this is something that is not foreign. This is something that Paul himself dealt with. This is something that is in the book of Philippians. So we're going to look at that later. But, look back on your own life. Can't you remember times when you trusted someone and you regretted later? You just kind of, oh man, I really shouldn't have trusted them. And you felt maybe stupid or angry. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's very hard to have a giving, outward-focused love when you are on the defensive. So today, we're going to be looking at, we're continuing our series in Philippians, and we are specifically on a mini-series about love with boundaries, where we're looking at chapter 1, verses 8 through 11, and this is the week 2 of that. And next week, we're going to actually go through and do kind of the verse by verse how we were doing. But today, we're just going to pick up where we left off last time with talking about a deep and mature love. Okay, so in Philippians 1, it says this: "For God is my witness how deeply I miss all of you with the affection of Christ Jesus. And I pray this, that your love will keep on growing in knowledge and every kind of discernment, so that you may approve the things that are superior and may be pure and blameless in the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, of the glory and praise of God." Now, last week we looked at what love is and what love is not, and we looked at the way that love must have boundaries. Today we're just going to kind of continue on that with 3 misunderstandings about the nature of love. 3 misunderstandings about the nature of love. The first one is that love is not the same as trust. Love and trust are not the same thing. You are called to love everyone. You are not called to trust everyone. Look at even what Jesus says in John chapter 2. Jesus, however, would not entrust himself to them, since he knew them all, and because he did not need anyone to testify about man. Now, listen to this part. For he himself knew what was in man. See, God does not trust us. He does not need to trust us. We are imperfect. We do need to trust him. But he does not need to trust us. And it's a good thing because we would always let him down. But God does not put his trust and his faith in us to do the right thing, to be the better person, to rise above. So he can't really get disappointed because he already knows what is in a man. Let's make this a little more practical. Hopefully, you wouldn't trust your kids with a child molester, whether they are the kid's uncle or somebody else. Hopefully, you wouldn't do that. If you have done that in the past, hopefully you'll stop doing that, and that will be something that is not allowed in your house. It's not a smart thing to do. It's not a wise thing to do. But beyond that, you wouldn't, hopefully, again, I hope that your finances are in better shape than this, but hopefully you wouldn't trust a complete stranger with your credit card or your wallet. Hopefully you wouldn't do that. That would be an unwise thing to do. See, you're called to love everyone, but you're not called to trust everyone. Do you have to love a child molester? Yes. Do you have to forgive a child molester? Yes. Do you have to trust a child molester? No. See, if someone sins, you have to forgive them, even if you have to endure unfair suffering in that. If they take advantage of your love and grace and forgiveness, you still have to give them love, grace, and forgiveness, but now you should definitely keep them distant. And I just want to clarify some terms here. When I say sin, if someone sins, I'm talking about something that is immoral, something that offends God. These great examples would be gossip or stealing. Both of those are great examples of an immoral action, right? But being offended or taking offense at something is not the same. Offense is my feelings got hurt. And we'll look at this later, but if you're a mature Christian and you were offended, you need to get over it. Now, if it's sin, that's not something you just, pretend like it didn't happen and brush it over. That's something that has to be addressed. But if we're talking about people getting offended, that's a totally different thing. So now that we've clarified that, When I say somebody taking advantage of your grace and love and forgiveness, I mean they are continually sinning intentionally. They have zero intention of stopping. Okay, great example. You wake up every single morning and your spouse punches you in the face. They are not interested in stopping. They're just going to keep on doing it. Well, that's wrong. That would be a good example of they're taking advantage of your love and forgiveness and grace. So with that being said, should you still give them love, grace, and forgiveness? Yes, absolutely. But you should also keep them distant because that's not okay. And they obviously have no intention of changing that. Love and trust are not the same thing. People who take advantage of your love and your grace, they will condemn you for your no. When you say, no, they are going to say, oh, well, you aren't being very loving. You'll say, okay, I love you, but you're not going to get access to my kids. That's not okay. Oh, well, you're not being very loving. You just keep reminding me of things that happened in the past. You just won't ever let it go. And we're not talking about they have changed, they asked for forgiveness. We're not talking about that. I'm saying they are still doing it. For instance, let's say you say, okay, well, you have had problems with children in the past, and so you're not going to be involved with my kids. I love you, I forgive you, but you're just not going to be involved with my kids. Oh, but I've changed. Okay, great, but I'm not going to take a drug addict to the bar either. See, there's different things in life that have to be handled differently, and it takes wisdom and knowledge. Love, as it matures, gains wisdom. Love becomes wise. Immature love is not wise. It's not able to distinguish, but mature love can. This is why Paul says, I want your love to grow in knowledge and in discernment. So people who take advantage of your love and your grace, they will condemn you for your no. Okay, look, I love you, but you're not going to treat me like that. Oh, well, you aren't being very loving. See, it doesn't matter that they're doing something wrong. It matters that you're not okay with them doing something wrong. And we live in a kind of victim mentality culture where everybody sees it as, hey, it's okay that I'm acting like this because I had a rough childhood. See, we're all still responsible for our actions. And what will eventually happen is these people will also start attacking you for unrelated things that you do. Okay, it'll look something like this. I see it happen all the time. It plays out almost the exact same way. A person is doing something bad, and then you decide to let it go, to show them grace. Hey, maybe they're just having an off day, and you're just like, okay, well, we'll just kind of let it play out and see what happens. And the person's doing the bad thing. So then as you go show them and give them grace, they see it as an opportunity to keep on doing the bad thing that they're doing. So then the inevitable has to happen, and you finally address it, and then you become the bad guy. No matter what you do, you're the bad guy now. So what do? You love them from afar. Do what you can, but also keep a distance. Look what Matthew 5:38 says. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, don't resist an evildoer. On the contrary, if anyone slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. See, continue to love, continue to forgive. But he doesn't say go out and find someone to slap you on the face. He says if someone does this, you continue to show love, you continue to show forgiveness and grace. But you don't go out and say, hey, look, I'm bored. Can you slap me on the face? Then you look at Matthew 18, a very, very popular verse. It says, if your brother sins against you, go tell him his fault between you and him alone. See, if your brother, we're talking about somebody who is of the faith. If he listens to you, you have won your brother. But if he won't listen, take one or two others with you. If he doesn't pay attention to them, tell the church. If he doesn't pay attention even to the church, look how you're supposed to treat your brother. Let him, your brother, the fellow believer, be like a Gentile and a tax collector to you, cast out from you. So right there, we see the idea of loving from afar. Loving, but still having boundaries. But Jesus doesn't stop talking here. We cut off here, but it goes on in the same chapter, a couple verses later in verse 21, Peter sees the natural problem here. Okay, so if I have to forgive somebody, if I have to deal with somebody messing up, do I still have to forgive them? Because surely if I'm forgiving them, I can't possibly treat them like a Gentile and a tax collector. I can't possibly cast somebody out of my life if I'm forgiving them. So he sees the same problem. Where's the line between forgiveness and love and casting them out and keeping them close? Where's the line? Then Peter approached him and asked, Lord, how many times must I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? As many as 7 times? See, everybody's thinking this. Everybody's wondering the same question. Peter's just the only one with a big enough mouth to ask it. So then Jesus answers and says, I tell you, not as many as 7, Jesus replied, but 70 times 7. Now, different translations will say different numbers, but the idea is still the same. You keep on forgiving them. So we see from Jesus here the idea that you keep loving even though you cast them out. See, keep loving, but stop trusting. There's this idea that love is naive. Love is not naive. And I think in part it comes from 1 Corinthians 13 where he says, love believes all things. And so people will remove that verse from its context and will say, okay, so in every situation, love is always naive. Love always believes everything. And it's like, hold on. You can't remove a verse from its context. Let me give you a great example of how that verse does not apply. Let's say a guy is cheating on his wife, which we all would say is bad. Okay. Next, she walks in and sees him cheating, and then he says, no, I'm not cheating on you. You're crazy. And totally gaslights her. Well, hey, if she really loves him, she'll believe all things, right? Well, no, that's obviously not what that means. But the problem is that people, actually the problem is twofold. The majority of Christians don't read their Bibles, and those who do read their Bibles don't really believe the things that it says. Oh, well, I'm more loving than that. It was a good idea, and I appreciate God's advice, but I'm not going to do it like that. When God was actually giving us guidelines of how to live. So remember, though, as we're talking about these things, before I move on to point 2, we are talking about sin, like sexual abuse. We are not talking about things that irritate you personally, like a kid being noisy. Being a pastor, people come to me for all kinds of things that irritate them, right? Like, pastor, there's kids and they're making noise. Yeah, that's what kids do. Kids make noise. They're noisy. And there was this idea that went before that kids should be neither seen nor heard. That's not a biblical idea. And that's not really how kids learn to interact with God or the church or anybody. Well, pastor, there's people making messes. Yeah, I know. People make messes. That's what happens. The only way to do that is to not have people in the church. We hire people to clean because of that. That's exactly the reason behind that. And there's even been times where my kids have left a little bit of a mess, and I would go in on Sunday morning before service started and clean up their mess because the auditorium was empty all week, so it really didn't matter. And then people still would come say, Pastor, your kids are making a mess. And it's like, well, first off, it's none of your business. Second off, I'm cleaning up every Sunday morning anyway, so it really doesn't matter at all. And then I remember, now this part is more, I mean this humorously. When I first came to the church that I pastor at now, there's been plumbing problems for forever. There was this whole long story that I won't bore you with the details, but there was a really good reason why the plumbing is all messed up. And we were using a very thick toilet paper, so as a result, the toilets were getting clogged quite regularly. Well, then when I came, I had somebody pull me aside and say, look, Pastor, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but, it's your kids. Your kids are the problem for why the toilets are getting blocked. So it's like, okay, well, we've only been here this X amount of time, and the toilets have been a problem for 20 years, so, I'm not sure that fits. So we just changed out the toilet paper, and the problem went away. We're not talking about things that irritate you. We are talking about sin. You keep loving, but you stop trusting with sin. Trust has to be earned. That takes us to the second misunderstanding about love. Love is not access. Those are not the same things. Love is unconditional, but access is not. See, not everyone got the same treatment from Paul. Not everybody got the same treatment from Jesus. Not everybody got the same treatment from Jesus. Does Jesus love everyone? Yes. But did he come to everyone? No, he came to the Jews in Israel. So if love is access, then that would mean that Jesus didn't love everybody. Well, obviously we see that, yes, Jesus did love everybody, but not everybody had access to him. Bennett said it like this: Jesus fed the 5,000. Okay, but he only served the 70, and he only mentored the 12, and he confided in the 3. So he only confided in 3. Look how Matthew 7:6 says this, which is not just talking about the gospel, by the way. Don't give what is holy to dogs, or toss your pearls before pigs, or they will trample them under their feet, turn and tear you to pieces. Saying about the wisdom of discernment. So this is a great example that you have to love some people from a distance. You love some people from a distance. Now, everybody should have a group of trusted few. Not everyone gets the same access to you, to your family, to your life. Look at Proverbs 22:10. It says, drive out a mocker and conflict goes too. Then quarreling and dishonor will cease. See, oftentimes what we'll do is we'll read verses like this and say, okay, that's cute and everything, but I want to be more loving than that. So we have mockers at our table. There's constant quarreling and constant dishonor shown, and meanwhile we are opening our doors and opening our tables to people who are mockers, who make conflict. And then we're surprised that we have conflicts in our house. Be careful of what you allow in your house. Instead of being wise, Pastor, I want to be a loving person. Here's the thing, that right there is the problem. Love is wise. If you get in a habit of enabling people's behavior, it will continue. That kind of an environment allows for that kind of growth. See, in the church, in the church that I pastor out, some people are not welcome back unless they repent. Unless we have a conversation in my office, they are not coming back. Then some people I will not meet with. There are some people who I will not meet with. There are some letters that come to the church that I won't read. If somebody writes a letter and they send it to the church and it's like a gripe list, a laundry list of all the gripes and complaints that they have about me or the church, I'm not going to read that. Not everybody's going to get the same access. There's too many things that I actually do need to handle. I'm not bored. I'm not going to go looking for something that will take up more time for it to appease somebody who is unappeasable. But the problem is that sometimes people want to be babied. They don't want Christ and Him crucified. They want to be babied. They want everybody to cater to them. That doesn't work. That doesn't work in the body. That doesn't work in families. That doesn't work in the society. That does not work. You see people trying to cater to everybody and trying to appease everybody, and they end up offending everybody and not making anybody happy. I mean, I think that a lot of what you see from Disney's sales profits shows this. It's just not a sustainable practice. You can't baby people and expect them to be grown. Eventually, you have to stop feeding them milk and let them eat something solid. But the problem is, a lot of times, especially in the Western world, people just want to be babied. If you cater to that, what's going to happen is they will eventually walk away anyways. They'll get their feelings hurt eventually and walk away. So what you have to do is you have to walk away. You just let them grow up. The third misunderstanding about love, now I know this sounds like a not very loving message, but this is a very loving message because it's about growing your love to a deeper level than it was before. The third misunderstanding about love is that love is not condoning, supporting, or agreeing. See, I love my kids to bits, but I am going to correct them for when they do something wrong. Look at Hebrews 12:6, the same way God looks at us. For the Lord disciplines the one He loves and punishes every son He receives. It doesn't say He punishes those who did wrong or disciplines the ones who are sinning. It says the Lord disciplines the one He loves and He punishes every son He receives. That also applies. I see it more and more happening nowadays, way worse than it ever has happened before. Even older pastors will tell me the same thing. You see nowadays more than anything, the parents and the grandparents will support their child or grandchild that's living in sin. Their child or grandchild will be living in sin, and they'll say, "Well, I want to support them." Well, make sure you're supporting them and not their sin. There is a huge difference. Oh, well, hey, you don't have to get a job. You can just keep crashing on my couch and let me take care of you even though you're 30, 40 years old. Hey, yeah, you don't have to go and fix the fight that you just had with your spouse. Come on here and let me cater to you and tell you how you're a poor little baby. Hey, you don't have to, go and fix the problem that you made. No, that's not good. That's supporting their sin. Look, I support you, but you're going to go back to your boss. You're going to make that right. I support you, but you're going to go back to your spouse. You're going to go back to your kids. You're going to go back to your job. You got to go fix this. This is not the way you're going to act. See, sometimes you have to put your foot down. Look, I love you, but I choose I'm going to choose my spouse over me. Over you. Look, I love you, but I'm restricting access to my kids. You don't get access to them. I don't trust you with my kids. Always give grace. Always give love. Outdo each other in giving grace. Love to the same degree as Jesus Christ Himself did. But sometimes you say, no, that's not how we're doing things. Well, we're not going to do it that way. You're not going to disrespect me like that. And when you do that, people will demonize you and say, you're the bad guy. That's going to happen. You still do the right thing. So remember, we aren't talking about the emotions of love, what you feel. We're talking about the action of love, what you do. The Bible, whenever it talks about love, is always talking about action-focused, not emotion-focused. We are talking about the action of love. We are a family church. What does that mean? Does that mean we're a church where there's a lot of families? No, of course not, because that would mean that basically if we lose families, we're no longer a family church. No, what it means to be a family church is that we make people feel welcome. Are we irritated by someone? Get over it. Love with the same love that Jesus Himself loved. Outdo each other in giving grace. Also, Don't allow sin to keep repeating. Look at what Titus 3:10 says. Reject a divisive person after first and second warning, for you know that such a person has gone astray and is sinning. If somebody is divisive, they have gone astray from the truth, from the way of Christ. They are living in sin. They are self-condemned. Unfortunately, what happens too often in the church world is divisive people are worked around and allowed, and that kind of attitude it continues to grow. See, you were not meant to keep working around that sin. You were meant to address it and cast it off, like a tax collector or a Gentile. See, the Jews, they didn't forgive or love Gentiles, so for them to cast someone out, a brother, and treat them like a Gentile tax collector, that was a serious problem because it raised the question, so what in the world is love? And love is not trust. Love is not supporting, condoning, or agreeing, and love is not access. You were not meant to keep working around their sin. So as we get ready to close out here, I want to just give a real quick chart that'll help you see the distinction here. If something irritates you, what do? You get over it. If something offends you, what do? You cover it. If there's an offense, you cover it. You don't draw attention to it and milk it and keep bringing it back up, you cover it. If there's sin, what do? You expose it. You don't do this by shouting from the rooftop or embarrassing them. You do it privately by talking to them one-on-one. Hey, look, here's something we got to talk about this. But you don't keep allowing that sin. You don't do that. Please join me in prayer. God, help our love to grow in knowledge and discernment with all grace. Begin to give us wisdom and guidance. Help us to see our dependence on you. And if you find yourself today needing prayer for whether you just feel God kind of tugging your heart and he's calling you to grow your love, or maybe you just have a need, or you're struggling with depression in this holiday season, or maybe you're looking for healing, whatever it is, post a comment below. You can always contact the church, and we can put you on the prayer chain, anything like that. Make sure that you don't isolate yourself during this holiday season.